Welcome back, America. My name is Michael ISHMAEL, and I have a great story to tell you. If this is the first time you're seeing me, please click the playlist link in the description box below this video. That way you can get a fuller and more complete picture of everything that's happening. If billionaire Donald Trump is billionaire Bruce Wayne, then me and my team are John Blake. That is the easiest and simplest way to explain it.
Boys and girls, welcome to Thrillville High School.
Today is the last day of school.
And for lunch, we're having corn dogs and tater tots. Wah, 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 wah.
Now, if you've been following along up to this chapter, let's just do a quick review. First, we have the communists coming out of Russia and China in 1917 and 1921. They're embarking on a 100-year plan to bring world communism. That plan will be deployed between 2017 to 2021 and has to be completed before the conjunction of the hammer and the sickle, the 800-year conjunction of the planet Jupiter and the planet Saturn. In addition to that, you have this weird Freemasonic plot coming out of the city of London, where rich, powerful elite, members of the church, government, and corporations, are planning to release race-specific bioweapons to kill many people.
Let them fumble about outside and stay calm. This is simply the beginning.
I thought I told all of you I want radio silence until further...
I'm very sorry, Hans. I didn't get that message. Maybe you should have put it on the bulletin board. I figured since I waxed Tony and Marco and his friend here, I figured you and Carl and Franco might be a little lonely, so I wanted to give you a call.
How does he know so much about this?
This is very kind of you. I assume you are a mysterious party crasher. You are most troublesome for a security guard.
Sorry, Hans, wrong guess. Would you like to go for double jeopardy where the scores can really change? These are very bad for you.
Who are you, then?
Just the fly in the ointment, Hans. The monkey in the wrench. The pain in the ass.
In addition to that, the powers that be say that we're going to put Donald Trump in the White House because he doesn't know anything about government, and that will cause a lot of chaos, and out of that chaos, we will bring order. But the order will not be the Democrats running the House, Senate, and presidency. The order would be world communism.
Don't quibble, Humphrey.
Government isn't about morality.
Really? What is it about?
Stability. Keeping things going. Preventing anarchy. Stopping society falling to bits. Still being here tomorrow.
What for?
Nico,
What is the ultimate purpose of government, if it isn't for doing good?
Minister, government isn't about good and evil. It's only about order or chaos.
In addition to that, as President Trump defies the critics and brings order instead of chaos, an insurance policy is deployed against the president to guarantee chaos.
They're gonna lock us in.
You can disagree with it, but respect it.
Come on.
Back. Get him in hell.
You have me at a loss. You know my name, but who are you? Just another American who saw too many movies as a child? Another orphan of a bankrupt culture who thinks he's John Wayne, Rambo, Marshall Dillon?
I was always kind of partial to Roy Rogers, actually. I really like those sequin shirts.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, mother...
In addition to that, 1 week before President Trump is inaugurated, Dr. Fauci, who had previously approved the creation of this bioweapon in 2015, casually warns that there is no doubt that President Trump and his incoming administration will face a pandemic. In addition to that, Bill Gates, who has strange connections to Jeffrey Epstein and child porn, openly brags that vaccines are the greatest investment he's ever made. He puts in $10 billion, he gets back $200 billion. On September 2019, me and my team have conversations with the president and his team. And within 48 hours, we put out online messages so that the date and time could be recorded. This same Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation runs an Event 201 training exercise on October 18th, 2019, which talks about a coronavirus that goes from animals to humans and spreads throughout the whole world.
It began in healthy-looking pigs, months, perhaps years ago. A new coronavirus spread silently within herds. Gradually, farmers started getting sick. Infected people got a respiratory illness with symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia. The sickest required intensive care. Many died. Experts agree, unless it is quickly controlled, it could lead to a severe pandemic, an outbreak that circles the globe and affects people everywhere.
As that is taking place, in Wuhan, China, on October 18th, 2019, there are many athletes complaining about the same exact coronavirus symptoms that were mentioned in that Event 201 training exercise.
The outcome of the CAPS pandemic in Event 201 was catastrophic. 65 million people died in the first 18 months. The outbreak was small at first and initially seemed controllable, but then it started spreading in densely crowded and impoverished neighborhoods of megacities. From that point on, the spread of the disease was explosive. Within 6 months, cases were occurring in nearly every country.
So, America, I want you to understand what's at stake. What me and my team and President Donald Trump are up against. 65 million people are projected to die from this new coronavirus within 18 months. What we're going to do is we're going to juxtapose. We're going to line up side by side what we said and our record versus what they said and their record. Let's go back to the issue of banning flights. Who was for it? Who was against it? Because understand that President Trump is being hammered by multiple sides. The World Health Organization, National Institutes of Health, the CDC, China, Dr. Fauci, and Robert Redfield are all against banning flights from China.
Meanwhile, China has denounced measures by the U.S. and other countries denying entry to Chinese citizens because of the coronavirus. Now, it says these nations are acting against World Health Organization recommendations.
Across the Atlantic, at an executive meeting of the World Health Organization in Geneva, China condemned what it said were excessive restrictions imposed by a number of countries, including visa rejections and denying entry to persons with Hubei-issued passports.
The World Health Organization's temporary recommendations do not recommend any travel and trade restrictions. We are all in this together. It concerns every country and everyone in this world.
The head of the WHO echoed the sentiments, while commending China on the steps it's taken to prevent the spread beyond its borders.
If it weren't for China's efforts, the number of cases outside China would have been very much higher. And it could still be, but we have the opportunity now to work aggressively to prevent that from happening.
Now, let's look at what me and my team are telling the president in January. And then also the online messages that are put out within 48 hours after our conversations.
Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic. We have been in frequent contact with our allies, and we are marshaling the full power of the federal government and the private sector to protect the American people. This is the most aggressive and comprehensive effort to confront a foreign virus in modern history. After consulting with our top government health professionals, I have decided to take several strong but necessary actions to protect the health and well-being of all Americans. To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days. The new rules will go into effect Friday at midnight. These restrictions will be adjusted subject to conditions on the ground. There will be exemptions for Americans who have undergone appropriate screenings.
If me and my team did not hammer away at President Trump in January to go against Dr. Fauci, go against Robert Redfield, go against the National Institutes of Health, go against the CDC, go against the World Health Organization, and ban flights from China and increase the quarantine time, more people would have been dead. Now you have some really incompetent people that will say that American citizens from China were still allowed to come back home to America. So you want us to leave American citizens to die overseas during a pandemic?
Just a fly in the ointment, Hans. The monkey in the wrench. A pain in the ass.
We brought the people back to their home country. And we did it specifically through only 11 airports, where once they arrived, they were put in quarantine for 14 days.
The U.S. Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, on Monday confirmed that passengers traveling from China will now be funneled through 11 U.S. airports, best equipped to screen passengers for the novel coronavirus. That's up from 7 airports. According to new restrictions put in place over the weekend, Chinese travelers originating in the People's Republic, even those connecting through a third country, would be denied entry to the U.S. Meanwhile, American health officials say they are working with local authorities to decide where individuals who might be infected will be quarantined. They say no option is off the table. They also say the U.S. is working on possibly evacuating more American nationals out of Hubei province.
We anticipated back in January that after we check people in China and we put them on a flight bound for America, when they arrive here, they will still maybe have the asymptomatic virus. That's why President Trump put in place a mandatory 14-day quarantine. The idea that this virus spread throughout the country because we brought Americans home and put them on 14-day quarantine and took massive precautions is absolute nonsense. Now we're going to get to that further in the video, how this virus magically spread, even though we took massive precautions to keep our people safe. We're going to get to that further down. But the idea that saving people's lives resulted in the virus spreading, that's nonsense. Now let's go to the issue of the weather getting warmer. What was our position? 3 days after our online message, we almost blew a gasket because the president said the exact opposite of what we told him. The president is only as good as his advisors. So somebody else must be talking in this man's ear and telling him the exact opposite of what we're saying. So we hammered the president again almost immediately within 2 hours.
Minister, where did you get the idea for this dangerous nonsense?
From someone in the department.
Minister, I have warned you before about the dangers of speaking to people in the department.
On February 14th, Valentine's Day, we would find out who was talking dangerous nonsense into President Trump's ear.
I saw President Trump said that he believes this could go away sometime in April. Where do you land in that conversation?
In the correct place.
And what is that?
You know, what it is that respiratory viruses, like influenza, generally have a seasonal flow to them. And you can predict every year that when the warm weather comes, it goes away. The coronaviruses in general do the same thing. They're generally winter viruses. And so it's reasonable to at least surmise that maybe if the weather gets warm, it's going to go down.
Watching the number of cases pick up in Singapore, where it happens to be very warm weather in the 80s right now, how much do we kind of fall back on this idea that we hope things die out when it gets warmer, when it gets to be spring and summertime?
That's right. So, we cannot contain an epidemic with wishful thinking. And even though it's true that some viruses wax and wane with temperature fluctuations, there's no reason to believe that this virus is going to abate in the warmer months, given what we're seeing in Singapore. So we have to prepare for more cases in the United States and elsewhere.
32 days later, after our first conversation with the president, we would be 1,000% vindicated by the World Health Organization. If the president had listened to Dr. Fauci and others and said, guys, let's not do anything because this is going to go away when the weather gets warmer, or we don't know what the warmer weather is going to do, more people would have been dead. Now let's go into the issues about lockdowns in the United States. A lockdown is not designed for a whole country. A lockdown is not even designed for a whole state. A lockdown is designed for targeted areas of outbreak. So me and my team are telling the president in January, we don't have to lock down the whole economy or the whole country, or even the whole state. We have to simply collaborate with the mayors, the governors, the heads of FEMA, the heads of Department of Defense, and have targeted lockdowns, specifically of the Chinatowns in the United States of America. But we have to do it in a way that doesn't violate civil rights. We have to do it in a way that doesn't become Japanese internment camps. Just 5 days later, me and my team would be 100% vindicated, as Chinese Americans are wearing masks in Chinatown. So America, understand what me and my team are saying in January, before anybody else. The coronavirus is spreading throughout America, and we're advocating for masks, social distancing, and targeted lockdowns. Let's see what the other groups of people were saying around February 14th, several weeks after us.
If I'm a viewer at home and I'm seeing all these reports about the coronavirus, should I wear a mask?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, there is no reason for anyone right now in the United States with regard to coronavirus to wear a mask. We have 15 cases that have been identified, isolated, and their contacts have been traced. And I think there's this misperception that wearing a mask, even if you were in an area where there was transmission, is going to absolutely protect you. A mask is more appropriate for someone who is infected to prevent them from infecting someone else.
What about avoiding large crowds? Should I be cognizant of that as well?
Well, yeah, but actually depends on what you mean. If you're talking about coronavirus, it is not circulating in this country, so there's no issue with regard to crowds.
After that, San Diego County in California declared an emergency. Now, let's see what Democrat Nancy Pelosi is saying on February 24th, 2020.
Yeah, come with me as we stalk House Speaker Pelosi right now. She's been taking a tour down Chinatown, and we have stopped already at a temple. We've stopped at a fortune cookie factory, the Walk Shop, which sells cookware, and now she is stopping at one of the little gift shops in Chinatown. If you can see her live now, she has been talking to people along the way, a lot of business owners, a lot of community leaders here in Chinatown who have been concerned about the optics of the coronavirus and the fear that some people might have of coming to a place like Chinatown that might have a lot of Chinese nationals. So she has been going around to show that it is perfectly safe to be here. She says that this is a very special place to her heart because she started a lot of her early campaigning when she started her political career, some of it right here in Chinatown. And we got some word from her earlier on sort of the message that she's trying to purvey here.
It's exciting to be here, especially at this time, to be able to be unified with our community. We want to be vigilant about what it might be on what is out there in other places. We want to be careful about how we deal with it, but we do want to say to people, come to Chinatown. Here we are. We're, again, careful, safe, and come join us.
Now, because the Democrat states, the blue states, refused to do the targeted lockdowns, the virus spread. At one point, Democrat Bill de Blasio said, enough is enough. We have to lock down New York City. Notice who was opposing Democrat Bill de Blasio.
Now to the latest numbers on the novel coronavirus pandemic here in the tri-state. Cases have jumped across New York with over 1,600 cases, the most in the nation. Cases in New Jersey now at 267. Connecticut has 68 cases. Governor Cuomo says it could be early May before cases peak across New York State.
The number of cases has grown to nearly 1,000. That's in New York City alone. Mayor de Blasio says he may have to order a shelter in place for residents across all 5 boroughs. That a point of contention, though, between the mayor and the governor.
Let's show you some video now as we talk about the shelter-in-place possibility being floated by Mayor de Blasio. It's something that's similar to something that's already in place in San Francisco. Now, it would require residents to stay home unless they're seeking medical care, getting food, or heading to a job where they're considered to be essential personnel. Now, that kind of mass shelter-in-place possibility for the coronavirus would require state approval, but so far, that possibility has the mayor and Governor Cuomo at odds.
Believe that decision should be made in the next 48 hours, and it's a very, very difficult decision.
It's deep breath time. There's not going to be any quarantine where we contain people within an area or we block people from an area. Individual mobility is what we're all about.
Why are Dr. Fauci and the Democrats trying to spread this deadly virus and kill as many people as possible? So Donald Trump is on board. Department of Defense is on board. The head of FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, is on board. Bill de Blasio is on board. But Democrat Andrew Cuomo is saying, no, we're not going to have a shutdown. At one point, he says we're not going to lock down these targeted areas unless we could lock down all of New York. Now, in order for that to happen, the virus would have to spread throughout all of New York. Keep in mind, this is the same Democrat Andrew Cuomo who was told in 2015 under the Obama administration that should there be a reoccurrence of the 1918 Spanish influenza, New York would be grossly underprepared when it came to ventilators. In fact, they would have a shortfall of 15,783 ventilators. Now, instead of buying the ventilators back then, they decided to institute throwing grandma off a cliff. Rationed care.
And at the rate they are going, it is not happening. FEMA says we're sending 400 ventilators. Really? What am I going to do with 400 ventilators when I need 30,000? You pick the 26,000 people who are going to die because you only sent 400 ventilators.
Just a fly in the ointment, Hans. The monkey in the wrench. A pain in the ass.
Up to this date, no one can explain how the red states, the Trump-supporting states, the Republican states, the conservative states, did not put COVID-19 patients in the nursing homes where the elderly are, but that the blue states, the Democrat states, the liberal states, the non-Trump supporting states did put COVID-19 patients into the nursing home knowing that this virus targets the elderly. Now, the next issue we're going to look at are the numbers, the modeling, the projection. If you were a firefighter, you would have to see how fast the fire is spreading. The same thing when you're dealing with a pandemic. You have to know how fast the virus is multiplying, what the R naught is.
When will we know what this is? What causes it? What cures it? Things to keep people calm.
What we need to determine is this. For every person who gets sick, how many other people are they likely to infect? So, for seasonal flu, that's usually about 1. Smallpox, on the other hand, it's over 3. Now, before we had a vaccine, polio spread at a rate between 4 and 6. Now, we call that number the R naught. R stands for the reproductive rate of the virus.
Any ideas what that might be for this?
How fast it multiplies depends on a variety of factors. The incubation period, how long a person is contagious. Sometimes people can be contagious without even having symptoms. We need to know that too. And we need to know how big the population of people susceptible to the virus might be.
So far, that appears to be everyone with hands, a mouth, and a nose.
So in January, me and my team are telling the president, go against World Health Organization, CDC, Dr. Fauci, National Institutes of Health, and others, and ban the flights. Because we have an R0 that's on the same level as polio before mass immunizations. Now, in January, there would be The Lancet would publish a medical paper. Now, they've been publishing medical papers ever since 1823. They would publish a paper stating that the coronavirus had an R0 of 2.68 based on a study that they did around mid-January. Now, the medical paper is very technical. I'm going to post it, but there's no need to read all the fine print. We're just going to look at specific points of this medical paper. In this Lancet medical paper, they are saying that as of January 25th, 2020, there are 75,000 individuals with the coronavirus. The R0 is 2.68, and that the doubling time is 6.4 days. That means that every 6 days, we are seeing a doubling of that 75,000. So after 6 days, 150,000. After another 6 days, 300,000. After another 6 days, 600,000 cases. Now, at this moment in time, the vast majority of people were getting their information from the Johns Hopkins University map of coronavirus cases throughout the world. What is very interesting is that at the same exact time that this medical paper is claiming in the middle of January that there's 75,000 cases, Johns Hopkins University is claiming that there's only 17,000 cases. Keep in mind, this is the same Johns Hopkins University that took part in the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation training exercise called Event 201 that took place on October 18th, 2019.
The mission of the Pandemic Emergency Board is to provide recommendations to deal with the major global challenges arising in response to an unfolding pandemic. The board is comprised of highly experienced leaders from business, public health, and civil society.
We could be looking at double the number of cases in 1 week and 16 times as many in a month if we are not able to stop the spread. That would be on the order of 500,000 cases, and it would continue to rise exponentially. In 3 months, we could be approaching 10 million cases.
We're at the start of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic. And there are problems emerging that can only be solved by global business and governments working together.
We have known about CAPS-like viruses in animals and people for decades, but have not been successful at developing a licensed vaccine. And sure, there are new technologies that may help, but it's going to be difficult. I am not optimistic about having a vaccine in time to be relevant during this pandemic.
This is very, very strange. On October 18th, 2019, Johns Hopkins University is running a Event 201 training exercise along with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation about a new coronavirus that goes from animals to humans and spreads throughout the whole world. When the bioweapon is actually deployed against the United States, they are underreporting the cases by 75%. How many people are in on this scam to make a 20-to-1 return on vaccines? At this point, we got information that directly was conflicting with what the Chinese were saying, that they had the virus under control and that everything was okay, and that the World Health Organization was also saying the same thing. Why are you banning flights? The information from me and my team was that the Chinese were planning to sacrifice all their cities and just preserve 11 of them. Now, when this happened, there was big talk of dropping a nuke on the Chinese to stop the virus. And me and my team said we would support that if there's evidence it would work. There's no evidence that dropping a nuke on these people is going to kill the virus. It may simply blow the virus around to other countries, and then we can't contact trace. So me and my team told the president we should form a 30-day commission, take a breather, and form a 30-day commission to analyze all the good aspects and bad aspects that would come from taking such a drastic action. But we feel the threat of a potential nuke would force the Chinese to give us accurate information and to cut out all this ridiculous censorship that's coming from the Communist Party. Now, according to our modeling, our R0, the replication number, we figured that on January 31st, there must have been 151,000 cases in the world. A few hours later, we would be 1,000% vindicated by the second most powerful company in China, called Tencent. You see, they have a gigantic board over there that was showing the coronavirus cases and the coronavirus death. And then all of a sudden, the numbers increased dramatically. And everybody quickly took out their cell phone and took a photograph of it. And then the Tencent company got on and lowered the numbers. After those numbers got leaked, magically, we would hear about the death of Dr. Wen Liang in China. At this point, we were telling the president that something else must be going on. And we have to cut through the Chinese censorship. Because according to our R0 from the Lancet, we're expecting over 600,000 cases come Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2020. Also, there would be video coming out where China is spraying the air to disinfect it, but then turning around and telling people that the virus is not airborne. Mr. President, enough is enough. We're not going to drop a nuke on the Chinese, but definitely threaten to drop a nuke on the Chinese unless they tell us exactly what's going on over there. We have whistleblower doctors that are magically ending up dead. After that, all of a sudden, the World Health Organization, that's controlled by China, says that we have about 40,000 cases in the world, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. We reiterated, watch out, because by Valentine's Day, we have 600,000 cases coming. Now let's just do a quick review about the R0, the replication rate, because that will tell us everything. In January, the Lancet paper is claiming 2.68 R0. Me and my team are claiming 4.08 replication. On February 11th, 2020, Los Alamos National Laboratory, located in New Mexico, would do their own study. And they found an R0, a virus replication rate of 4.7 to 6.6. They further stated that quarantine and contact tracing alone will not stop this virus, and that you have to go early and have strong measures. So understand what our position is. Social distance, mask, lockdowns, this virus is spreading, it's going to infect a lot of people, it contains HIV, it's going to kill a lot of people. We need to take drastic measures. Here are the correct numbers for the R0. This is the rate of doubling. This is the amount of people that are infected. This is the amount of people we can expect to be dead. Now look at what others' positions were on February 14th, 2020, on Valentine's Day, a date where we predicted we would hit 600,000 cases.
If I'm a viewer at home and I'm seeing all these reports about the coronavirus, should I wear a mask?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, there is no reason for anyone right now in the United States with regard to coronavirus to wear a mask. We have 15 cases that have been identified, isolated, and their contacts have been traced. And I think there's this misperception that wearing a mask, even if you were in an area where there was transmission, is going to absolutely protect you. A mask is more appropriate for someone who is infected to prevent them from infecting someone else.
What about avoiding large crowds? Should I be cognizant of that as well?
Well, yeah, but actually depends on what you mean. If you're talking about coronavirus, it is not circulating in this country, so there's no issue with regard to crowds.
That in India and elsewhere, the drug ribavirin has been shown to be effective against this virus. Yet, Homeland Security is telling the CDC not to make any announcements until stockpiles of the drug can be secured.
Well, Dr. Gupta, there continue to be evaluations of several drugs. Ribavirin is among them. But right now, our best defense has been social distancing. No handshaking, staying home when you're sick, washing your hands frequently.
Can you tell us to date how many people have died from this virus?
Very difficult.
Let me bring in Alan Crumwitty into this debate as well. Alan's a freelance journalist. He was the first to track the Shinko Busman video. Alan, today on Twitter, you wrote that the truth about this virus is being kept from the world. by the CDC, by the World Health Organization, to allow friends of the current administration to benefit from it, both financially and physically. You also wrote that the World Health Organization is somehow in bed with pharmaceutical companies?
Because they are. That's who stands to gain from this. They're working hand in glove. And the hand is reaching into our pockets.
The CDC is exploring forsythia and other homeopathic treatments, but right now, there's no science to back any of these claims.
Or no way Dr. Cheever or the people who put him into power can profit from it.
We're not ruling anything out. There are people who are sick, people who are dying, and we
They're not keeping us safe from this any more than they kept us safe
about the
from Wall
health of every
Street
American
or
citizen.
Katrina. Tell them what an Arnold of 2 really means, Dr. Cheever. Teach them some math. No? I'll do it. On day 1, there were 2 people with it, and then there were 4, and then it was 16, and you think you've got it in front of you. But next it's 256, and then it's 65,000, and it's behind you and above you and all around you. In 30 steps, it's 1 billion sick. 3 months. It's a math problem you can do on a napkin, and that's where we're headed. And that's why you won't even tell us the number of the dead, will you, Dr. Cheever? But you'll tell your friends when to get out of Chicago before anyone else has a chance.
Medical masks like this one cannot protect against the new coronavirus when used alone. When you wear them, you must combine with hand hygiene and other preventive measures. WHO only recommends the use of masks in specific cases. If you have cough, fever, and difficulty breathing, you should wear a mask and seek medical care. If you do not have these symptoms, you do not have to wear masks.
There's no need for Americans to stockpile food, stockpile water. The American people don't need to buy masks. And frankly, when people go out and buy masks and buy other personal protective equipment, it reduces the overall supply for healthcare providers and communities that need it.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for coming and telling us.
Thank you, and stay safe by washing your hands, by covering your cough, by staying home if you're sick. Masks do not work for the general public in preventing them from getting coronavirus.
Right.
There's a lot of confusion among people and misinformation surrounding face masks. Can you discuss that?
The masks are important for someone who's infected to prevent them from infecting someone else. Now, when you see people and look at the films in China and South Korea, whatever, everybody's wearing a mask. Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often, there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
If you do not have any respiratory symptoms such as fever, cough, or runny nose, you do not need to wear a medical mask like this one. Mask alone can give you a false feeling of protection and can even be a source of infection when not used correctly.
America, I can't really show you in person the level of stress and conspiracy that was against this President of the United States. If it had not been for Donald Trump, me, and my team, more people would have been dead. These people had the wrong numbers, they underreported the cases, and then when there's airborne AIDS that is asymptomatic, they tell the people not to wear masks. Dr. Fauci, World Health Organization, Mike Pence, the Surgeon General, the CDC, all the way up to the end of March, was saying do not wear masks. I cannot express to you what it's like to have a direct line of communication with the president, to be able to pick up the phone and call this guy, and keep this man 1 or 2 steps ahead of a deadly conspiracy bent on killing 65 million people just to make a return of 20-1 on a vaccine.
So that's what this is all about? Robbery?
Put down the gun.
Why'd you have to nuke the whole building, Hans?
Well, when you steal $600, you can't just disappear. When you steal 600 million, they will find you.
Now, America, you might be asking yourself, if everybody except Donald Trump is saying do not wear masks, how is it that the entire administration changed their policy on wearing masks? Who do you think made that happen?
Put down the gun.
Mine, this is mine. You got me.
Still the cowboy. Mr. McLean, Americans, all alike. Well, this time John Wayne does not walk off into the sunset with Grace Kelly.
It's Gary Cooper, asshole.
Enough jokes.
You made a pretty good cowboy yourself, Hans.
Oh, yes. What was it you said to me before? Yippee-ki-yay, mother...
on February 27th, there would be a fascinating scientific article, scientific paper, published to the National Institutes of Health's website. It would state conclusively that whereas masks do not provide 100% protection from this coronavirus, some protection is better than no protection.
So while we're seeing cases rise, we can see cases go down just as quickly if the American people will do the things that we know slow the spread of this disease, including wearing a face covering. Critically important for people to know COVID stops with me. We have the power to turn this thing around.
Okay, let's start there then, because you are wearing a mask. You are clearly trying to make a point. At the beginning of April is when the administration started telling the public to wear masks. But just the last time you were with us here on Face the Nation, March 8th, you said this. Let's listen.
And stay safe by washing your hands, by covering your cough, by staying home if you're sick. Masks do not work for the general public in preventing them from getting coronavirus.
Right. And the week before that, you tweeted in all caps, "Seriously, people, stop buying masks." You said they were not effective. Do you regret saying that?
Well, it's important for people to understand that once upon a time we prescribed cigarettes for asthmatics and leeches and cocaine and heroin for people as medical treatments. When we learn better, we do better. And the WHO,
Are you
the
saying
CDC,
at that time you did not know because the CDC in February was looking at asymptomatic transmission of the virus?
We were looking at that, but the CDC, the WHO, and even in May there was a New England Journal of Medicine article that still disputed whether or not masks were effective. We've learned more about asymptomatic spread. Up to 50% of people who can spread this disease spread it without having symptoms. And that's why the American people need to know that science is about giving the best recommendations you can. And when you learn more, you change those recommendations. Our recommendations have changed.
Okay.
Now, people of America, important to know you should wear a face covering.
And we certainly do.
When out in public.
We certainly do take that advice, but I think you have to acknowledge that this mixed messaging has created confusion, and it has drawn into question some of the credibility of the administration. Are you certain
and
that this wasn't just done because of a shortage? Well, I'd like you to clarify it. Were you saying that then because there just wasn't enough equipment?
I was saying that then because everything we knew about coronaviruses before that point told us that people were not likely to spread when they were asymptomatic. So the science at the time suggested that there was not a high degree of asymptomatic spread. We learned more. There also was, as you mentioned, the very real concern about hoarding of PPE and people dressing up in trash bags as healthcare workers. That was a part of it, but the primary reason was because that's what the science said. And I want the American people to understand we follow the science, and when we learn more, our recommendations change.
wah, 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 wah. What? Get on my level. What? Get on my level. You can't. Get on my level. You can't. Get on my level. It's Drill Bill. Lil Scrappy. It's B&B. Let's go. You can never ever, 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 ever. Get on my level. What? 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 You can never ever, 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 ever. Get on my level. What? Get on my level. What? Get on my level. What? Get on my level.
I am in 100% agreement with Lil Jon, Lil Scrappy, and Trillville. The principals of the world, the teachers of the world, the scientists of the world, the virologists of the world, the people that are supposed to be in charge were wrong on everything, and me and my team were right on everything and ahead of the game in January. In fact, October of 2019. The CDC, World Economic Forum, Johns Hopkins University, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, World Health Organization, Mike Pence, the CDC, were all wrong on a deadly bioweapon. But when it came to solutions, the only solution they pushed was the vaccine. However, in addition to the confusion and conspiracy, we now have a third element. Because me and my team came back from Singapore and Thailand with some very disturbing information. That's when me and my team realized that we are dealing with terrorism, like in the movie Die Hard. We're dealing with biological terrorists who are running around the world dumping different strains, different versions of a virus according to a schedule against countries they don't like. So the good news is that 65 million people were projected to die within 18 months of this new coronavirus. That was projected on October 18th, 2019 in the Event 201 training exercise. As of this moment, and we're about 15 months into this pandemic, there has been only 2 million deaths of coronavirus worldwide, and those numbers are greatly exaggerated. That means that the people that planned to kill 65 million people didn't hit their goals. Which means you can expect new bioweapons that will be blamed on the virus mutating. At this point, me and my team told the president, We will kill these terrorists for you. But we need time. Pretty soon, what Dr. Fauci did and has been doing is going to come out. When that happens, the Republicans and conservatives are going to be hammering away at you to fire Dr. Fauci. Keep Fauci on. Why? Because if this man is capable of this level of evil, and we fire him, the devil that we don't know, the unseen powers, the terrorists, will release airborne autism, the zombie apocalypse virus, cancer in the water supply. There's no telling what bomb they will set off. So we need to keep Fauci on, monitor everything he does, censor him if necessary, so that me and my team can run around the world killing these terrorists.
The context for this is that Dr. Anthony Fauci was on America's 60 Minutes last night, and he made a whole bunch of claims, primarily that he was not surprised that Donald Trump picked up coronavirus. And he was also critical of the White House because he says that the White House wouldn't let him go and do the media that he would like to. And Donald Trump was very critical of that today, pointing out the fact that that Anthony Fauci had said this while on a media program. But some of this leaked audio comes from a discussion with his campaign staff. It was in Las Vegas. It's where Donald Trump had been for the last couple of days. It was leaked to the media a couple of hours ago, and it's now become public. Here's a bit of what Donald Trump has had to say about Dr. Anthony Fauci.
People are tired of hearing Fauci and all these idiots, these people. these people that have gotten it wrong. Fauci's a nice guy. He's been here for 500 years. Every time he goes on television, there's always a bomb. But there's a bigger bomb if you fire him. But Fauci's a disaster. I mean, this guy, if I listen to him, we have 500,000 deaths.
So Donald Trump, a couple of hours ago, he arrived in Arizona. This is part of his campaign rallies. He's got 2 of them in Arizona today, and he was questioned by reporters after he got off his plane and he was on the tarmac, and he kind of walked that back a little bit, Laura, but here's a bit of what Donald Trump had to say when asked about the when questioned by reporters.
No, I think really Dr. Fauci's a very nice man, but we let him do what he wants to do. He gets a lot of television. He loves being on television, and we let him do it. Sometimes he says things that are a little bit off, and they get built up, unfortunately, but he's a nice guy. I like him, but he's called a lot of bad calls. He said, don't wear a mask, and he said, don't ban China. They were bad calls. He admits that, and I don't hold that against him. If I did, I wouldn't have him. No, I think he's a nice guy.
Did you see that? If you saw that, and you like what we do, like, subscribe, and please give a donation to the link in the description box.